And my favorite, the most anticipated open world RPG of the last 20 years.
Game fucking sucks. From the masterminds behind the great Fallout 76, Fallout 4, Skyrim, a brand new huge game set in outer space. And me, I like space game. I like Halo, Star Wars, Mass Effect, Titanfall, Dead Space, Buzz Lightyear. But this game isn't special because it's just a space game. It's special because it's a space exploration game. Instead of focusing on a narrative campaign or a specific set of locations on a planet, this is a full-on galaxy where you can go anywhere. It's a game that draws from all these other games to form an open and freeing experience for the player. And the thing about Starfield is that each one of its components sucks dick. Starfield is one of the least enjoyable games I have ever played. It's a game where absolutely everything feels mundane and tedious. The reason this video is named Sadfield is not because I'm disappointed this game was bad, it's because it's genuinely sad that a $7 billion studio made a game this awful. The only reason I was remotely interested in this game was the feeling. As a child, I was fascinated with the cosmos. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to space. My favorite movie was Interstellar. And the most interesting thing to me was the scale of the universe. I remember talking about this a few years back, but just imagine leaving Earth and traveling so far to a different planet. Imagine how isolated and insignificant you would feel. Starfield makes no effort whatsoever to make the player feel anything about space. Like, even No Man's Sky starts by putting the player on a planet alone. You have the $10 music and the pretty skybox. Like, I'm not gonna say it's good, but at least they tried. And then Starfield, which instantly shoves this shitty story down your throat in a fucking trailing mission. And even when you're set free, the game doesn't even try to make you feel something. Why do you not have a spacesuit on? When Starfield first announced they were going to have 1,000 planets, I instantly thought to myself, wow, how are they going to fill out all these planets? And the answer is that they didn't, of course. They did what No Man's Sky did, except they only generated 1,000. And these planets are basically all the same with copy and paste structures, so basically, once you've explored one planet, you've explored them all. And when I say explored, I mean looked at, because this game severely punishes you for venturing out. You have this oxygen mechanic where you die if you run for more than 2 seconds, and it takes forever to get anywhere in this game. And again, it's not like you're missing out on anything since every planet has nothing going on. Guys, you won't believe it, but I found Earth. Okay, that was cool. That was cool. Now you could say, well, planets don't have much going on in real life, so why would Starfield? Well, first of all, it's not real life. It's a game. And secondly, there is a very obvious lack of effort in the generation of these planets. Remember Interstellar, where the snow planet had the frozen sky? Or those huge ass waves? Time dilation? If it's too demanding to make 1,000 planets, then these goofballs shouldn't have made 1,000 planets. But if by some miracle you actually get invested in this bland ass world of Starfield, the loading screens are here to ruin your immersion. Why are there so many loading screens? In a game that's supposed to make the player feel free, this is the complete opposite of seamless. You want to land on a planet? Loading screen. You want to enter a space station? Loading screen. You want to enter your own goddamn spaceship that's already loaded onto the map? Fuck you, loading screen. And with how disconnected the loading screens make the game feel, it's like they just strapped together different games. Press Y to lift off, but actually it's a command that launches Dick Ships 3, which is a game that Bethesda developed when Todd Howard threw cracked smoke grenades throughout the entire building. But you know what? I could look past the immersion, or loading screens. The reason Starfield sucks is because every single component of the game sucks. There is nothing this game does well, it's all just a fucking waste of time. The story, for one, is a try not to fall asleep challenge. The dialogue and acting isn't good, but it's not really super bad either. So there's nothing to take away from it. You can't laugh at it because it's not that bad, but you can't really get invested either. And when I say you can't get invested, I mean that 1000%. How the fuck are you supposed to tell a compelling narrative when the only way you tell your story is by zooming into a character's face and talking to them? I remember when Cyberpunk came out and freaking CD Projekt Red actually had motion cap animation for the first person cutscenes. I thought it was the beginning of the future. Rockstar could do it, but this was CD Projekt Red. But Bethesda, of course not. They don't care. 17 years later, they still use this computer-generated animation, and surprise, surprise, it looks like shit.
I'm not afraid to use this to defend my home and my family.
Now, it's obviously like this because Bethesda games aren't supposed to follow a narrative. They're supposed to be flexible enough to where every player can have their own story. The trick here, though, is to craft a compelling world where the player wants to get involved and have an impact. And not once in my 12 hours of playing did this game give me any reason to care about anything in this universe. I think like 7 hours in, I completely gave up on the main story because it was so goddamn boring. I'm pretty sure the narrative was like about collecting rocks and putting them on a table, and playing through the game for this narrative was so fucking repetitive. With 700 menus and loading screens, walking for 7 hours with nothing going on, and the shitty ass non-combat objectives.
Would you do this for $1 million?
And you know what? Let's talk about the combat. The combat in this game is an absolute joke. The worst type of shooter where you just unload on dumbass enemies until they die. This AI is just mind-blowing. Imagine a 2023 AAA game with multi-billion-dollar corporations behind it, and this AI would have been considered bad 20 years ago. An action game is good when it's dynamic and it makes the player think, right? This is the complete opposite of that. The insanely shallow mechanics combined with the amazingly terrible AI makes for probably one of the worst shooters I've played in years. And that's why the space powers are so good, because then you don't have to play the game. And then finally, the spaceship sections, which are just the same thing over and over and over again. There's combat where the ship handling is ass and the enemies take way too long to kill and there's not really any skill involved. And after that, you can fly towards a space station. Everything in this game sucks. Everything in this game has been done better in another game. And this is probably true for most Bethesda games. But obviously the strength is in the structure. People love the structure of these games. But the flow in this is ruined by the stupid fucking loading screens. Starfield is such a tedious, frustrating experience that doesn't give me any reason to continue to play the game. I just couldn't imagine how a human being could genuinely enjoy Starfield, but I guess people just like loading screens. I personally would never play this game for fun. It's the opposite of enjoyable. My time is worth too much for this shit. So I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. Terrible game.